Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to be doing session 13 in our fantasy unit today. Fantasy characters are complex. So, remember when we talked about the character Snape from Harry Potter, and we realized he wasn't really fully evil or fully good. He was complicated. He was complex. Just like real people are not all one way or another. So readers, today I want to teach you that as the books we read become more complex, the characters are also more complicated. Just like real people, they're not just all evil or all good. They're nuanced. They have subtle differences. They might have flaws that they have to overcome, and they may not overcome those flaws. This means that powerful readers need to delve deeply into their characters' strengths, their flaws, and their motivation across that whole arc of the story. So we're going to look at Meg for A Wrinkle in Time. And I created, before we did like internal and external, kind of a timeline of them and the journey they were on. So now we're going to look at a timeline for their emotions. How are they inside? So what I did is I started with Meg at the very beginning of the story. You know, she was upset about school. She was very down on herself about a lot of things. As the story went on, we learned that she was very frustrated because she did not understand things like Charles Wallace and Calvin did. Things didn't come as easily to her. Then as you continue on in the story, she doesn't really feel good enough or smart enough to bring father home. She's constantly relying on Charles Wallace and Calvin, and she's still frustrated when things aren't explained to her in a way she can understand, or she's not things aren't happening the way she wants them to happen. But then a change happens in her then too. She gets the courage to go back for Charles Wallace on her own, and she realizes that she is enough, and she is good enough, and she is smart enough, and strong enough, and brave enough to do all of those things on her own. And then at the very end, she actually does end up rescuing him. So this is some work that I feel like you guys could do with a character in any of your stories. Kind of track their emotional timeline. You could do it in a timeline format, like I said, or just do some quick writing to create, like what was the character like at the beginning? What were they like in the middle? What were they like at the end? What were their emotions like? What were some things that were happening? Did you see some change in the character in some way or another? And on your notebook, here, you have two different places that you could do this. With two different characters or that you might want to do in your book. So I just really want you to be focus in on one or two characters and really think about the arc of the story. What were they like at the beginning? What were they like at the end? Did they have how were they complicated and complex characters? What were some of their traits that they had? They might be happy but yet sad. They might be at the beginning very worried and upset and frustrated, and then they find their bravery towards the end. Something might have happened to make them change or overcome a flaw that they have. Do some writing that I can see where you are really thinking about these characters and the journey that this emotional journey that your characters are on in your story. So you can do some writing in those things here in your notebooks. You could do some different book snaps, show me from the beginning of the story kind of how they were, and do a book snap towards the middle and then the end of how they were. Make sure you highlight the text and also what it is you're thinking about that character. Write that out for me. Don't forget to tell me the title of the book that you're reading so I can track those characters, especially if it's a book that I'm familiar with. So good luck and good work with everything I've been seeing you guys do so far, and let me know if you have any questions.